What's up everyone, this is Darren with Rose Studios, and today I'm going to be making a short video about my custom Tokyo Marui M4 that I use specifically for CQB. I also have a Tokyo Marui M4 GBB that I use for outdoors specifically. This is specifically used for long range shooting. More on that next time. It's because I've done a little bit more work to this one. But for this, it's very easy to talk about. It's because most of the stuff internally is stock. But I'll still go through all the details and all the internal workings for you anyways. So starting from the back, we have a Magpul CTR stock with the friction lock. It's very nice. I also have an extended butt pad. Just be wary that if you buy the stock for your TM M4, it does wobble a little bit, which is the reason why I have duct tape in here to prevent the stock from wobbling. Another thing that's worth noting is that on the Tokyo Marui M4s, there's a buffer tube cap that can come loose. I made a video showing you guys how to take that apart and red thread lock everything, which I've already done that to this one, so this one is perfectly fine. If you guys intend to use a steel buffer or a high recoil setup, I recommend you guys to swap the buffer tube to something else, like a real steel one or an angry gun one, whichever one you like. Doesn't really matter, just choose something a little bit more durable that can't be disassembled very easily. The TM ones, I've always kept it stock just because I never really had a huge issue with it. Moving forward, this is just a stock TM M4 receiver, Cerakoted. All TM M4s come Cerakoted, by the way. And this is a UAC ambi safety. I'm only using it because it's if you do training sessions, which I'm not really into, I don't really train, sometimes having the ambi safety helps. Otherwise, I don't really have any other reason for using this. My favorite part about the receiver area here, though, is my pistol grip. This is a BCM pistol grip. These are a little bit hard to come by in Hong Kong. I am using it on my DMR as well, which is just the tan version. Super nice. And there's actually a bit of a storage compartment here that you can use to store extra batteries if you want. I do keep a button cell battery over here because that battery is for this optic. This is a Tokyo Marui Micro Pro sight on a Tokyo Marui mid riser mount. This riser mount does not come with a sight. You have to buy that separately, of course. Sight is quite expensive, but the only reason why I'm using it is because it has a polycarbonate lens, so it holds up very well. It can actually take shots. That's the reason why I use this for CQB, is because people can actually shoot at this, and it will hold up pretty well. I used to use iron sights only with this setup, which is the reason why I have these very expensive Magpul Pro iron sights. These are my favorite iron sights. I started airsoft shooting with iron sights, so I prefer to spend a little bit more money buying something nicer. Moving forward, we have this PEC box from GMP. This is their mini version. People mostly use this stuff with nods. I do use it with nods, but I'm mostly using it to point at stuff. Like, instead of using it for you to aim with your rifle, I use it to say, hey, look at this area, or I circle it with using the laser over here, and that's what I mainly use it for. I know that's not the proper use of this PEC box. I just mostly use it as the way I like it. And the most exciting part also about this setup is the rail and the outer barrel. So this rail right here, this is a VFC M-lok rail that retails for $55 US. It's really cheap. It has QD mounts on the left and right side. Unfortunately, it's not anti-rotational. But this rail is super nice because it's short and you can also take it off really easily. At the bottom here, there are 2 set screws. Those are the only screws that you need to take apart to take this whole entire rail off. So this rail is super nice, priced quite competitively in my opinion. And it's compatible with real steel M-lok accessories like this Magpul M-lok grip, this Magpul Offset Mount, and I have a Haley Strategic Inforce WML here. This is the generation 1 that only has 200 lumens, momentary on and off only. I really like this light, but apparently it's not very popular. I just like it because it's lightweight and there's no extra switches. Surefire, they always have these like tail switches. Don't really like that. But this is just what I use. You don't have to use it. And in addition to the rail setup, I also have a die-tack 8-inch outer barrel that's perfectly flush with the rail. So the threads are right at the tip of the rail. This is a super nice setup. It's because you can add a tracer and it will still be super compact. The Ace-Tech lighter used to stick out by this much. This is one of those die-tack mini tracers with an X-Core-Tech XT301 inside. However, the X-Core-Tech tracer unit, sometimes it malfunctions. I had a situation where the LEDs turn on and they stayed on until the unit ran out of battery. So I might be replacing this with an Ace-Tech. I'm not entirely sure yet. I've been having a lot of issues with that recently, so I'm not a big fan of this. Actually, that's actually one of the reasons why I stopped using this for about 2 to 3 weeks. It's because this tracer unit is giving me hell, and I always lent out the Ace-Tech lighter to other friends, so I haven't been using this as much, but I really want to though. It's just that this thing is a pain in the butt. As a side note, because for Tokyo Marine M4s, normally it's 250 millimeters for the CQB and 360 something for the 14.5 inch. Because this is an 8 inch, you need to buy a new inner barrel for your setup. You have to make sure that your inner barrel is 230 millimeters or below if you still want to run a tracer unit. And if you run a 230, it will stick out by this much. Which leads me to the internals. So for the internals of my TM M4, it's actually pretty ordinary. You'll be happy to know that almost everything in here is stock. There's only 2 parts that's custom modified, which is the inner barrel and a trigger job. But otherwise, everything else here, you can buy from the market. So this right here is a PTS charging handle. This is their AXTS one. It's a pretty durable charging handle. Funny thing, I actually broke every other charging handle out on the market, except for the PTS one so far. The PTS one seems to be lasting quite a long time. So, not bad. This right here is my own custom bolt. This is an RTS 7075 T6 bolt. I made it out of 7075 is because it's much more durable than 60 series aluminum. It doesn't wear out as much. And I also moved the bolt lock point a little bit further back for short stroking. I made my own bolt is because back then, UASC didn't make one. I stripped my bolt in early 2016, so I ended up making my own. That's the reason why this exists. If you guys are interested, I do sell this in my store, but I'm not going to talk about that too much. It's because I'm not here to sell you the bolt. But in case if you want to know what that is, that's where that came from. And then next up, the bucking. You can actually, I don't even have to take this apart to show you, is because this is a maple leaf bucking. You can actually see the color right over there. It is a 70-degree bucking with a omega tensioner. The omega tensioner is the concave tensioner for the maple leaf bucking. It's very ordinary. Everyone can buy it and install it and it will work. It is the one with 2-point, not the one with the sharp point. I believe the 2-point one is called the Autobot. I might be wrong, but don't worry about that too much. It's because it's just for hop-up setup, you can just buy whatever you want. I mostly bought the 70-degree one. It's because I sometimes crank this rifle up to 1.5 joules for outdoors, but I mostly don't. Because the inside valve over here is stock. The rocket valve spring is cut for 1.2 joules. I have a second rocket valve spring that I use specifically for 1.5 joules. Otherwise, though, the valve in here is stock. And finally, we have my lower receiver and what's inside my buffer tube. So this right here, this is the Angry Gun buffer. This is their lightweight speed buffer that is about 60 grams. Their steel one is much heavier. Because this is for gaming, I'm going to be using the lightweight one. And this right here, this is a SAPH 120% recoil spring. Back then, when SAPH came up with these springs, they're quite cheap, so that's why I bought one. Eventually, I made my own springs, but this is just something that you can readily buy in the market. Don't worry too much about what's here. You can actually just buy a spring from a spring shop and cut it for here. So that's it for the buffer tube and everything. The last thing to talk about is just the trigger. So everything in here is stock. I never changed a single thing. I never changed the bolt lock area. I never changed the hammer or anything like that. The one part that I replaced with the stock one again was the full auto sear. And the reason why is because I've actually owned this gun for quite some time now. So over time, I stripped the full auto sear. If some of you guys follow me on my channel, basically half of 2016 and almost the whole of 2017 I've used the TM M4. So I just stripped it over time, and that's what happened. If you guys don't understand why the full auto sear and why not the hammer, on your bolt, the roller is steel. So the steel rotor is smacking onto your non-steel full auto sear. That's the reason why the full auto sear wears. Now, you will know when it wears is because after a while, if your TM M4 does not work, or if you get a dead trigger, sometimes it might be because your full auto sear is not activating, or more specifically, it cannot let go of your hammer. If it cannot let go of your hammer, this is what will happen. So right now, I cocked my hammer further down. If your full auto sear is not working, this is what will happen. Your gun won't fire. You just pull a trigger and nothing will fire. You have to push your full auto sear, and then it will fire. This is a little bit difficult for people to understand. It's because on regular Gasolback M4s, the full auto sear has nothing to do with semi-auto or full auto. On a Tokyo Marine M4, the full auto sear is functional in both semi-auto and in full auto. You need this to work at all times. That's the reason why I replaced mine when I wore it down. Furthermore, I would like to talk about one last thing, and then I'll end the video. So when it comes to the Tokyo Marine M4s, there is a phenomenon, a weird situation that can occur. On Tokyo Marine M4s, there's a situation where whenever you rack the bolt, you'll notice something. You'll notice that, so the bolt right here is closed, right? Sometimes when you pull the charging handle, you'll notice that, hey, my bolt is like really stuck, or it's like jammed here. And I have to give it a very hard pull in order to release the bolt. As you can see, it does not occur on mine. Right? The reason why there is a hard pull is because that hard pull is coming from one thing only. On the full auto sear, after your bolt wears out this sear to a certain point, what will happen is that the rotor will enter this funny area, this high-rise area. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So on your full auto sear, this right here is the high area, and your rotor is on the front area. So if your high area gets worn, or if it gets deformed, what will happen is that your rotor has to jump over that every single time. So in that process, every time when that rotor jumps over it, it will create that the sensation that your bolt is stuck, because it has to hop over that area. Some people think that it has to do with the nozzle spring. Some people think it has to do with the nozzle sticking. Just depends on what you believe in. It doesn't really matter whether or not you solve this problem, because either way, the gun will still work. If you think it's something else, go ahead and fix it your way. There's different ways to fix it, or there's different people believe in different things that will cause that. It doesn't really matter. Solve it whatever way you want. My method of solving it is quite simple. Round off the top corner. You can even tell just by looking at it. So the top corner of my sear, right over here, it does not have that area where it can deform, where it can snag onto my rotor. So because it cannot, so when I push the full auto sear forward, I'm going to push it. So right now it's high, right? I'm going to push it forward. And then pretend that this area, my file, pretend that is the rotor. So the rotor just has to go over this tiny, tiny little bump that I sanded off and rounded off. So it just lightly goes over it as if the bump is not there. It's still there, but not completely gone. That's how I smooth out my gun. That's the reason why I don't have that pulling problem. Now, there's one tricky thing to this modification, which is you need to know what you're doing for a Tokyo Marine M4. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll create a funny situation. Where's the camera not focusing? Okay, anyway, sorry. You'll create a funny situation where your gun will not work properly if you foul too much. The reason why is because if you foul too much of the full auto sear, it will not activate. Just like before, it will do this if you foul too much of it. So how do you know how much to file? How do you know how to modify it? The answer to this question is much simpler than you think. After you use your TM M4 for a while, your TM M4 will wear out the area on your full auto sear, and that is the indication of where it's being worn. You will see the wear marks on your own full auto sear, and therefore you will know how to modify it. It's because you'll be looking at it. That's how you modify it. Just sand away the area that it deforms, and your rotor will just hop over the full auto sear every single time without getting that obstruction problem, without getting the hard pull issue. I don't really know the proper term for it. As an interesting side note, if the person who figured that out is watching this video right now, who figured out the secondary method to solve this problem, please feel free to comment in the video. I don't know who you are. I don't know your exact full name because he's in Japanese. But apparently the guy has been commenting on how to fix that issue for your Tokyo Marine M4. I'm not going to pretend like I'm the expert. He has solved it via another method. If you want to look up that method, just look up his post on some Japanese forums. You can find it. Even I don't know how to read Japanese. I'm Chinese, by the way. So it's not like I have a particular advantage over finding that forum post. But he figured out a different way to do it. I didn't do it, as you guys can tell. The reason why I'm being very vague about that topic is because, like I said, everyone thinks that it's something else. Everyone thinks that it's the nozzle spring. It's either your bucking is too sticky, which is partially the issue, not exactly the cause of the issue, but it can be a factor. And everyone believes in different things. I'm going to tell you right now, regardless of what you believe, you don't even have to fix this issue. It's because the gun will still work even if you don't fix it. So I'll end the video here. Just because any further than that, people will get very picky about exactly what I say and everything, which I don't care. Because as long as the gun works, it's fine. So that's it for the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. Please feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. I also have a Facebook page and store. The store is where you can buy the RTS bolt if you want one. I actually have a few left. I don't have that many left. It's because I actually stopped production of the bolt for now. Because in the future, I might be making a Type 89 bolt. That's mainly the reason why I'm stopping production of the TM M4 bolts. Because I feel like the Type 89 has a lot of potential. But I'm figuring that out at the moment. I'll let you guys know when I do make one. Anyways, guys, peace.